Okay, guys, so let's get started. Welcome everyone to Medental Society Session 5, where we're going to be going into life as a medical student. Now, many of you guys already know by now, medicine and dentistry, being healthcare professions, are some of the hardest degrees to get into. Not only that, they're also some of the most demanding careers. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. They can be some of the most rewarding
Connie,
careers,
please
allow you to build
bring up your brother
relationships
hat.
with patients and also allow you to succeed in any part of your life, whether you want to get involved in some travel, you want to do some research, you're really interested in a cutting edge surgery or technology, or perhaps you just love working in communities and love talking with people. That's really what the
One more
beauty
hat.
of the career is. And that's my goal, hopefully, to break down for you guys what life is like as a medical student and hopefully what I aspire to do going into my career as a doctor. And hopefully inspire some of you guys along the way because you guys, if you guys already know me, have heard a lot from me going on about the different career paths and, the UCAT interviews, personal statement, that sort of boring stuff. But what's actually the whole point of it? What are we actually trying to gain from this? What's our end objective? And the end objective really is for us to make meaningful careers. And I just want to talk you guys through what a week to week looks like for me in medical school, how I study, and how I really see, the purpose of doing all of this, and what you guys can hopefully gain from this as well as a benefit. Okay, so that is the plan for today's webinar. So a bit about ourselves. Many of you guys may be new, so welcome to the Medentors community. What we do is help aspiring medics and dentists get into medicine and dentistry, and also help you guys achieve your academic success through our academy, which is through mentorship and support available for you guys to really reach those A level and GCSE grades to help you reach your goals of getting into whatever degree you want, even if you have decided that, medicine dentistry may not be for you. And we also work with lots of schools and different communities. So if you would like us to get in touch, please do email us or drop us a DM on Instagram, WhatsApp, or whatever, just to help us get in touch and benefit as many communities as we can across the UK. So that is part of what we do as well. And our impact of who we reached out to throughout the course of our time, we reached out to 3,500 students. Now, many of you guys will know there's roughly 30,000 people that apply for medicine dentistry every single year. Our goal is to reach out to every single one of them. So we're 10% of the way there. Let's get that to, 30,000, and we will be able to benefit everyone on this pathway and also make the right career decisions as well, which is sort of what this webinar is for. And as you know, we worked with 20 different schools and institutions, and most of our students that are enrolled within our courses, to 95% of them get offers, which is significantly higher than the average you guys may see being thrown around. Okay, so a bit about the plan for today, what I want to walk through with you guys. I want to talk with you guys firstly to do with a bit of my journey of what was really my decision making process before going into this career because choosing to be a doctor is not an easy decision. It's something big. You really got to think about it because it's sort of like a transaction where you're throwing your life at it. So I'm going to walk you guys through a bit of my rationale behind picking that degree, then talk you guys through a bit of my weekly schedule within medical school, why, get up to week, and, how I balance this sort of thing alongside Medentors, alongside, doing medicine, which a lot of people come to me and say, this must be difficult. And I'm going to talk you guys through some of that and, how it is for me. And the next thing we're going to be talking about as well is how I manage a work-life balance alongside that. And then we will get on to the golden question. Is medicine still worth it in 2026? Get asked this one a lot. And I think we're going to have a realistic discussion about what you can expect in your career. And hopefully after that, we'll be moving on to Q&A for you guys to ask any questions. And the beauty of this Q&A is you guys can ask me anything. It's not like our other webinars where you're restricted to asking me questions about, oh, how to prepare for the UCAT, how do I do my interviews, all of that. You guys ask me that day in, day out on the group chat everywhere, okay? Let's be a bit different now, and you guys are free to ask me any other question because what this experience will sort of entail for you is getting into the career which is right for you, okay? So, and that can be a life-changing decision for many of you. So that's one thing we're going to make clear. Just give me a couple more seconds before because my iPad might run out of charge. Okay, cool. attached it back to the charger. Let's get started, guys, and move forward, hopefully, with this webinar. Okay, so a bit about the Medentors community. We've already gone through that. I'm your guest. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Muhammad Mufti. I'm currently a second year medical student. I'm also the co-founder of Medentors, which is the community we run. And I'm going to be talking you guys through today's webinar. The plan for today was to also get one of our dental students. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, he wasn't able to make it. So hopefully sometime this summer, we'll do a webinar together where we compare the two degrees. But even if you're a dental student, I would still tune into this opportunity because I'm going to be talking to you guys not just through medicine, but also the degree of not only working in healthcare, but being a university student in of itself. So that's sort of the plan for today. So let's get started. So before everything started, before I made this decision, I was a GCSE student, like many of you guys in this meeting maybe, or may have gone past. Okay. I was in year 11, 15, 16 years old, and I had to decide on my subjects and as well as what I wanted to do for my A levels, what three subjects I wanted to go for. So for me personally, this decision it didn't come overnight. And even to be fair, in year 12 to year 13, I was still thinking between multiple different career options. And that's why, for much of my earlier life, I made the decision that whatever I wanted to do, and this is something I would recommend for all of you guys, even if you haven't made the decision of what career you want to do, you have to do the best academically. Why? That's going to open up the most amount of doors for you. Don't think, oh, I don't want to be a doctor anyways, so I don't need to push for those seven, eights, and nines. I can sit back at my current expected grades. You got to push even above that level. And this is what I say to a lot of our students. Because one, you may change your mind and want to do a career that has high GCSE grade requirements. But also, whatever career path you go into, your grades are always going to help you stand out. So I was in the mindset that I'm going to go into whatever I want, not even medicine. And at the time, I was quite opposed to medicine because I'd just seen it around so much within my community. And I was like, sort of a rebel. And I was like, I don't want to do medicine 100%. And I'm going to get such high grades and I'm going to not be a med student. And here I am right now talking to you guys. So everything starts off like that. And that's what I really did. My main objective was at that time to achieve grades. Now, I managed to sit my GCSE grades. I sort of did rescue them towards the end, and I achieved eight nines and one eight in my GCSEs and a five in Spanish. So don't worry about it, guys. I wasn't naturally, a good Spanish student. But other than that, I did quite well, as you guys can see in my GCSEs. And that helped me out a lot throughout the rest of my process. So when I got on to some of the later stages towards making the decision between what career option I went into, it helped me out. So then came the next hurdle. What do you want to do? Because I'm in year 12 now, new student, new sixth form, everything. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do now with my time? What can I do here to apply for a degree? Because I've got to send on my UCAS application. It's going to be year 12 very soon, year 13 very soon. The summer's coming up. October, I have to send through my UCAS application. I have to decide on what degree I want to do. And it has to be now. So I was in between the crossroads that probably the majority of this call are between, if you haven't already decided, between medicine and dentistry. And that was sort of, what do I want to do? Now, I wanted to look at my strengths. I knew academically, I enjoyed studying, and it's something that, I just enjoyed going deep into things. But at the same time, every single time I went into work experience or spoke to doctors around me, and I had the privilege to get lots of work experience for both medicine and dentistry because of community centers I was involved in with volunteering at my local mosque, etc., which is just a side benefit I want you guys to take, is to get involved wherever you can because you don't know what opportunities in your life will open up doors for you. So I was quite involved with my local mosque, for example, and that put me into contact with doctors and dentists, and they were more than happy to take me on for work experience. I went into the practice, but it's a bit weird. When I went in there, I came out even more confused because I'm like, now I really don't know what I want to do because I saw pros and cons of both sides. And then I probably just spent the next year probably just on YouTube watching endless videos of should I do medicine? Should I do dentistry? Are the potential pay progressions of the two careers? Where can you, work internationally once you get a degree? What sort of things can you do? And it never stopped really for me. So at the end of the day, I sort of decided with medicine, and it was just based on a key few decisions that personally resided with me more. The first thing is that there's just a bit more diversity within medicine in the sense that you're not restricted to just the teeth. I'm quite an adept person who likes to study things, and even to this day, when I open up my lectures, it's just a lot of personal reflection when I look at the degree in of itself. And it's just so much science going on and so much cool stuff. I know many of you guys might just get bored of opening up textbooks and revising all day, and I do as well, but I like that time where you're sitting down and studying and learning about the human body at such a depth which 99% of the general population don't learn about the human body like that. You know more than than pretty much everyone you see down the street about the body. And that's something, that's very humbling to know that science is ever developing. And I thought that's what really pushed me towards medicine. And on top of that, there's just more opportunities. Dentistry, actually, for the UK is more competitive and more sought after purely due to the circumstances within the NHS. But if you look around the world, it's quite different from that perspective. So that's another thing. I was very UK centric. We live in an environment where we're just thrown into the UK and we see people around us that are saying, oh, don't do medicine. There's lots of negativity around it, but it's not the same in the rest of the world. And I began to realize that towards the time it was for me to send off my application. And that is what really, flipped the switch with me and said, I want to do this, not just because I want to work in the NHS, but I've got the opportunity now to work anywhere in the world. And that's what sort of motivated me to go down this path. So I did the next step, sit the UCAT. As you guys can see, this is how I did on my UCAT. It's an okay score. I think I did okay. Forget my verbal reasoning score. It wasn't the best. But yeah, I sat my UCAT in the summer of year 12. And at that time, I think I decided I wanted to do medicine and dentistry quite late. So my prep was quite rushed at the time. Um, but I still managed to get a decent score. This score is obviously no longer the same. So this is the equivalent of what 2050 approximately band one would be in today's UCAT scoring because I've got this extra section called abstract reasoning. It's one of my highest scored. It's gone now. I'm glad I didn't have to, get rid of it and you guys won't be sitting that exam. Unfortunately for you guys, I found it quite easy. So yeah, I did my UCAT in the summer of year 12. It burned me out. I was tired. The day after, I had a flight back to Pakistan to see family. But yeah, that's pretty much what my summer was like. Just UCAT grind in the last few weeks before my exam. And yeah, so that's how it was. And I felt like I was quite motivated after this because I knew I had options. It didn't open up every option. There were some universities which my school probably wasn't the most competitive to get into, but the majority of options were open for me. And thankfully, I had my GCSEs sort of as a saving grace to really help me get to the next stage. And that's where things went forward with. So I went on holiday quite peaceful and calm, knowing that I'd done a good job. And then came the next step. So year 13 started, I got my mocks back. I got predicted 3A stars, which was a really good boost for my application. And I sent off my UCAS application. So I chose to apply to local universities because my main priority was to stay local. So I live in and around Birmingham. Therefore, I applied to many of the local universities in and around my area, which was Aston, Leicester, Cardiff, and Kiel. I didn't apply to UOB. Very long story why, but essentially someone told me my score wasn't high enough, but actually it was. So I kind of regret not applying, but it doesn't make a difference for me. So yeah, then I get to this stage of seeing through my interviews. So, all praise to God, I managed to get all four of my interviews, which was really good news for me. And my fifth option was pharmacy. Surprisingly, pharmacy do interviews as well. I did not know that until I received my email, which sort of, threw me on edge. And I was like, whoa, like I have to do an interview. I just didn't go to that one because it was so last minute. And the thing is during my mocks as well. So I wanted to focus on that because in case I could help me get my predicted grades up a little bit. But yeah, so that's what happened as well. So. Um, I got to my interview phase. Now, interview phase was actually quite, scary for me. Reason being is because I had never done anything like that before. I've never really put myself in front of someone. I know I sound confident to you guys right now, and that's because I've probably done like 100 plus webinars at this stage because of how much I've been doing with Medentors. But I was a very nervous year 13 student, very nervous. Never sat an interview in my life, wasn't confident at speaking, didn't know how to communicate my thoughts and aspirations for medicine. None of that. So when interview season came round, I was visibly shaking. And in came my first interview out of my four. And that was at the University of Leicester. Now, University of Leicester, that would be my second option as I had family there that I could live with. So I really wanted to do well here in my interview, basically. And I got there. It was at the start of December, so literally a month after I'd begun my preparation. And I still remember everything. It's like in my mind. It's been over 2 years now of me sitting in the exam hall and sitting for my interview. And the first station I had was a calculation station. So there was no examiner in the room. It was just me in the mini station. And I was visibly shaking at the interview. And it was just, it reminded me of how stressful that period is. And looking back now, with a bit more preparation, with a bit more insight, I could have, prevented that. And I think that made me realize that I hadn't done enough preparation because a lot of my interview preparation was theory. I really sat down and just learned all the hot topics, but I never applied it. I never really went out of my way to speak with people. And as a result, the rest of my interview, I was quite nervous throughout it. And the examiners picked up on it. I kept asking for time to think. I didn't know what to say. And as a result, unfortunately, a couple months later, it wasn't a surprise in my email when I found out that I'd been rejected. And yeah, that was quite a heavy blow at the time because I was like, if I got rejected from those ones, what about the rest of them? So that's when everything else came down. I asked them, and this is one thing I'd recommend you guys to do when you get to interviews, medicine or dentistry. What I did was next thing was probably what saved me and got me an offer at the end. And I asked them for feedback. Now, I'm quite lucky that Leicester actually gave me feedback because a lot of universities I know don't do that. But I'd still recommend you guys to try do that because they told me that, you sounded very rehearsed. If you sounded like you hadn't practiced and you were very robotic and you weren't answering the question directly. It was as if you'd prepared for another question, not what we were asking. And your communication skills as a result weren't up to par. So, and I looked at it and at first I was like, no, that can't be true. But then I realized that what they've said is correct. I probably haven't sat down in front of people and practiced. So that's when I started, getting people together from my secondary school, which was very supportive, by the way. We had like a medical society, and I would sit down after school with friends on calls, and we would just practice together, people who also had medical and dental interviews. And after that, I realized, hang on a minute, this is low-key a walk in the park. It's not as hard as I thought. And as a result, I managed to secure my other two offers. And my fourth interview, I already had my two offers by then, my firm and insurance, that I didn't even have to sit it. So I had offers at Aston and Cardiff as a result of that, which was really happy for me. So yeah, after the end of that, I decided to firm Aston as a medical school and decided this is what I want to do going forward. So that was the next stage for me. Now, the next step, as you guys can see with these images, I locked in. Okay, because I'm not trying to, do all the UCAT, get good GCSE grades, write a good personal statement, really work hard for interviews and turn everything together and not do well in my A levels. So I took this seriously. What I did with my A levels, you guys can attend our webinars and go over the recordings. I've given lots of tips for that. But I just went through as many past papers and I said that, if I don't get this done, I might not get another chance to get into medicine because it's not an easy degree to get into. And the entry requirements back then were probably a bit stricter than they are now because there were, less places available, etc. And the competition ratio of actually getting in was a lot tougher than it is now, even though it's been a couple of years. So I knew that I had to do well here. And like all praise to God, I managed to get three A stars in my A levels as a result on results day, which made me really happy. And I finally became a medical student in the summer of 2023. And that made me really happy because, it was sort of like a new chapter of going forward. I think it's 2024 actually. Yeah. So that was the end result. And I was really happy with that because now a new journey would begin. Now, before starting medical school, I was in this loop and this vision. I had a lot of friends in the year above. They were telling me medical school is going to be like the hardest 5 years of your life. They were making it seem very scary for me. And I would watch lots of YouTube videos. And you guys have probably seen on like TikTok, Instagram, social media, people making medical school seem like it's impossible. So I came in very nervous, very anxious. And this is where I sort of think the medical school you pick is very important because I chose the option of staying near to home because I know that I would be in a safe space. A lot of people I spoke with, and this is something really important that you don't think about. A lot of times when you apply to university, you just think about where can I actually get in. But once you look at where you can actually apply, I'd recommend you guys to think about what place would you be comfortable staying in. Because for me, Aston University is very near to home. And what that sort of allowed me to do was, you know, go home often. For the first time I stayed out and then I moved back home, by the way. So for the first time I was in dorms because I just wanted the experience and then I moved back afterwards. And it was a familiar environment. It's very close to Birmingham City Centre. Very familiar environment based off that. It was a city university, nice societies I could join, lots of opportunities, and I felt like that really helped me out. So it made everything flowing transition very nicely. And I would actually say that my first 6 months of university, first 6 months of medical school was the best time of my life. And if you tell that to anyone else, they won't believe you. They'll be like, why? And it's because I was in a new environment, new people. I've sort of broken out of that secondary school mindset where everyone in secondary school is sort of like kids. You still mess around a little bit in sixth form, etc. But when you get to university, it's just adults. You've got lectures. If you don't turn up, that's on you. If you don't go to tutorials, that's on you. And you're actually studying something that you want to study. I did three subjects. I did biology, chemistry, maths as my A levels. And yes, I enjoyed and I love studying them. But I didn't really enjoy it, learning about plants or integration. I wanted to learn about the human body. Like I had one passion. And this is what you get to do in medical school. You get to study what you want. So actually, the environment you're in and the people you're around, everyone just seems to be happier because they're doing what they want to do for the most case, and that's a really good environment. So I got lots of opportunities in medical school, and some of them was getting involved in, as you guys can see, surgical procedures. So that's me drawing a drain pipe through a chicken, which basically, let's say, um, obviously we do it in humans, but in surgery, what we do is when someone has loads of fluid building up, like pus or let's say tissue fluid, as you guys have learned in your A levels, when it builds up, it needs to be drained. This is for patients who have heart failure, etc. So we drain that. I also did a bit of suturing using knives. I was quite interested in surgery at the time, and it's very procedural. So I got involved with the surgical societies in Aston and other universities nearby. And here's just some photos of me on placement in campus. Now, I want to talk with you guys a bit about course structure of medical schools. And I think this links quite nicely with the next slide, which is what a week in my life looks like. Firstly, for those of you guys who have researched course structures, can I get in the chat? How do different medical schools teach? What sort of ideas do you guys think they have? How many of you guys have heard of different types of course structures? If you can just put in the chat for me. Haven't you guys done research into universities yet? Spiral course, yeah, that's really good. Anything else? What's Manchester University really known for? Does anyone know their course structure? Not quite sure. I think just Mustafa knows. Mustafa, if you want to unmute and tell me a bit more about what the spiral course structure means. No? Okay. Okay, that's fine, guys. So essentially, different course structures in universities tell you about how we teach the course. So essentially, some universities, they like to throw you into placement straight away in year one. So many of my friends who went to medical schools in London, Imperial, UCL, etc., KCL, in year one, they were in hospital seeing the most amazing, crazy cases, whereas I was in lecture halls looking at bodies and models, and sitting down. Whereas other medical schools, let's say, were doing essays. Us at Aston, we don't do essays. I'm so grateful we don't do essays, honestly. It saved me so much time. So course structures vary from university to university. And one thing I just want to tell you guys is that this whole thing about PBL and TBL and that sort of thing, I don't want to say it because you shouldn't say this in your interview, but it's kind of like a load of nonsense. Because every medical school has some aspect of TBL, PBL, which is problem-based learning, case-based learning, team-based learning, these sorts of things. Whereas traditional, there's no such thing as traditional in PBL. There's always a mix. Obviously, don't say that in your interviews because some universities like to emphasize it. But that's one thing I learned very quickly because if you guys look at my schedule, I don't have a pointer, but if you look at Monday, I've got a tutorial 10 to 12 called head and neck. That's compulsory. I've got to be in there. That's just a team-based learning activity. And actually, every single thing which says tutorial. So, the next day on Tuesday at 2 p.m., I've got a nervous system tutorial, and I've got another one on Wednesday at 10:30ish. That's another tutorial. Every day I've got a tutorial, which means I need to be in university for a couple hours at least minimum. So I need to like take a bus there and like be there. And that is actually team-based learning, even though Aston isn't described as a team-based learning university. And this is very common in other universities which don't proclaim themselves to be team-based learning, like Queen Mary's, etc. It's really like that. And you don't often appreciate that until you're there. The whole thing about different medical schools teach you in different ways, it's very minimal. There's very little difference between the two variables. And actually, once you're in there, if I was to do another medical course, it would be very similar. So don't feel too bogged down and don't think, oh, I can't learn at that medical school at all because they do PBL and I don't like learning in cases. I like learning in lectures. It doesn't make a difference. So that's another thing. The other really good thing about my course I found was that, as you guys can see, I've got lectures listed over here. So if you guys go Monday to Friday, you'll see some lectures. None of them are compulsory. So I don't have to be in lectures. I only have to be in where it says compulsory tutorials. And if I'm not in there, well, then, you get an absence. And if you guys are interested, absences do count. If you get above 25 in our medical school, you have to redo the year. So they are quite strict with that. And it can be difficult at times having to commute to university, getting time for absences. Sometimes I have 8:30 starts, as you guys can see. I've got an 8:30 on Tuesday, the 3rd. Um, it does get difficult, but it's possible. So I'd say generally a week in my life, what usually happens is I like to get to my tutorials nice and early, and I time block myself 9 to 5 to get all my work done. So within medical school, what I do is I do my tutorial, which is just you're in your groups of like 6 students, which you guys have for the whole half term, so the whole year, half a year, sorry. And within that, you guys get given a PDF sheet of patient cases, and you just go through some questions like, what medication do we give? Why do we give this one and not this one? Which artery does this? Which is just a bunch of questions, and it's really useful exam resources, which we have and sit down and discuss together. I really enjoy tutorials because not only is it that, but you also get to spin around in different rooms and, get access to resources like dissection material, like actual cuts of human bodies, which is really interesting as well. And also things such as ultrasound rooms where they put us in a dark room and we just, do ultrasounds on each other. And there's also special tutorials as well, where we actually go and have a dissection visit. Now, since we're quite a new medical school, we don't have our own dissection hall. So to do dissections, we have to go to Leicester Uni to do our dissections. And I went there last week, and it's really cool. It's not everyone's cup of tea. A lot of people do faint when they first see it, but think about it as like an underground bunker. I'm not even making it up. We literally go underground in like a place, and it really smells of formaldehyde, which is like the substance they use to preserve bodies. And it's like 40 bodies all on beds next to each other, and it's actually kind of eerie when you think about it that way. And the bodies, they're really preserved. And a lot of people, they can't bear look at it. I think like at least 10 people just left the room straight away and went away and said, no, we can't do this. Whereas me, I'm quite interested in anatomy, surgery, the human body. And I looked into it and I was like, whoa, this is really fascinating. And there is no other degree, I just want to say to you guys, that lets you do that. Only in medicine can you be in a room with people who, passed away within like up to like some of the bodies are like 5, 10 years old, and they've been preserved with formaldehyde, which is like a special solution. It keeps you alive, and you get to see the body, and it's really good for self-reflection as well for me, spiritually as well, when I like to think about our lives. And it's very interesting when you see that sort of thing because you get to learn from it as well. And I would say that's what really makes medicine special. There's also other cool things we get to do, like examine peers, each other, like as students, and like it's very hands-on at medicine. So I get to examine like in small groups within our friends, and you don't get to do that. It's very practical. You also get to go to GP, see patients. That's sort of what a week in the life is like for me. But in terms of how much studying I'm doing, I like to 9 to 5 just block in my studying. So I don't do anything else. I like to wake up early in the morning and um wake up early in the morning. If I don't have a tutorial early in the morning, then I'll get to uni early and just open up my laptop and just get work done, which is usually lectures. Now, the way we learn is we've got lectures, and these lectures, every block is made up of lectures. So on Monday, you guys see head and neck. That's a block of learning. So within one term, so this term starting from January to my final exams in May, we learn 5 different blocks within that term, and that's called a teaching period. So in these 5 months, we will learn head and neck, neuro, which is like the nervous system, immunity, which is like your immune system, pharmacology, which is like drugs to give to patients, their names, that sort of thing. And the final block is like a mix of everything. So it's a bit of statistics, a bit of clinical practice, a bit of like clinical integration, like seeing patients, and a bit of placement as well, and also essay stuff. So it's like a miscellaneous. And on Monday, we will have head and neck. Tuesday, we'll do neuro. Wednesday, we'll do like anything. And Thursday is immune system, and Friday is pharmacology. So every day we do it in different blocks. Now that's sort of how our course structure runs, and different medical schools have different approaches. For example, in some medical schools, in one week, they don't break Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday into different blocks. They like to do all of cardiovascular in one day, or they like to do all of respiratory in one day. So that's what it's sort of like. And last term, before this, before January, the other blocks we were doing were renal, which is like your kidneys, GI, which is like your gut. Um, what else did we have? We had resp, which is like your lungs, etc. Repro, which is the reproductive system, so fertilization, etc., pregnancy, female health. And then we also had a fifth, which is like miscellaneous. So every 5 months we have blocks of topics which we cover together. And that's sort of what Mustafa said earlier about the spiral curriculum. That's how it works. Because yes, we do different blocks separately, but they sort of build on each other. Because in year one, we do introductory blocks which introduce these topics, and now we're building on them. So these five blocks are sort of like a development of the previous five, yet we introduce new anatomy, which is like physical structures in our body, and new concepts. And it sort of builds on it. And it's like sort of spaced repetition for us to learn. That's what I find really useful. But yeah, that's the only key differences I would say between universities. 9 to 5, I like to get my work done. I don't like working outside of that. The only time I'd ever do that is if I have to revise with friends and do examinations on each other, because they don't just give you computer-based exams, they also give you these exams called OSCEs. Now, OSCEs are basically the best way to describe OSCEs, they're like your MMIs. So think about your medical school interviews. For those of you guys who haven't done those yet, you're basically going in a room and there's different stations, 8 minutes each, and there's an activity in every station. So for you guys are getting asked questions in your interviews, in your MMIs, like why do you want to do medicine, that one, whatnot. For us, there's a patient in there, they've got a problem, and they're asking us, what do you do about this? Take a history, examine them. So I need to learn all the examinations, all the steps. Like I need to test are their hands working? Is their nerve, are the eyes working, brain working? I feel their abdomen. Sometimes they bring patients with actual problems and I have to actually work out what's going on. And it takes a lot of practice. At first, you don't get it. I remember one of my clinical skills sessions, I was there and I was like, I can't be a doctor. Because like everyone's getting it, but I'm not. And it was just really weird. And you will feel like that. Imposter syndrome is real in medical school. Um, you will sometimes be in a room, like even in the tutorials, it's like a big hall where as you guys can see, the ones that which are compulsory, and in them, everyone's putting their hands up and getting the answers. Me, someone who did quite well academically in, my A levels, etc. And I thought I was, top of the class in sixth form, etc. But when you get to med school, it's a different ball game, a completely different ball game. People really know their stuff, and it makes you feel like a bit of imposter syndrome. But that's okay because what you know, they don't know, and it really is like that. And I found out really early because in first year I got a lot of imposter syndrome. But as we moved on, I realized that what they know, I don't know, and it's okay if you don't know everything. And that's the other benefit of medicine. You don't have to be at the top of the class to pass, because when you graduate as a doctor, they don't look at your rank, they look at what you've done outside of your degree. And that's sort of another really important thing about medicine. This stuff that you see over here, that's the bare minimum. I need to do my tutorials, I need to do my lectures, I need to make my Anki's on lectures. Because if I don't do that, I will fail. But if I want to be employed and get a job afterwards, after my foundation training, which is after you graduate, you do 2 years of foundation training, F1 and F2. After that, you need to apply for specialties. I need to know what type of doctor I need to be. And to do that, I need to sit interviews and entrance exams. And to get into those, I need to do things outside of my degree, like research, teaching, stuff like this, teaching, aspiring medics and dentists, giving talks. I need to do these sorts of things to show them I'm competent in this field. So that's another thing I'm doing alongside that in my week. But that's all what a week is like for me. Not too complicated. I also want to talk with you guys a bit about the human aspect of medicine. Now, what we also have in our curriculum is, although we're relatively a traditional curriculum in which at Aston we don't get to see patients that much in first and second year, we only go to GP. We start hospital from next year, year 3, 4, and 5. That's when I'll be in hospital. I'm still seeing patients, and I want to talk with you guys a bit about a story of a patient I came across. And it was quite shocking for me. So a couple weeks ago, I think I was in placement, and the way we do placement is they'll pick a random day of the week. So Monday, one week, the next week it might be Tuesday, the week after will be Wednesday, and we'll have a full day 9 to 5 GP placement. What we're usually doing on these days is just examining patients. We're just practicing speaking and examining people, and they've got, patients like that. And by the end of the year, I need to find a patient to write my essay on, which is due in like a month's time. And low-key, I haven't started, but don't worry, I will get started. So I needed to just find a patient to, examine, and I couldn't find one until I came across this one patient. And it was this lady, a uni student around my age, maybe a bit older. Um, and her symptoms, she had something called fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, which is basically your nervous system and your body struggles with energy, struggles with, having the energy to do things in the day. And it can lead to laziness, it can lead to low mood, it can lead to depression, anxiety. And when I looked at her history, I began to see the difficulty of, what it was for her to live day to day. And she, despite all that, she had a really positive outlook on life. And that, made me think that, wow, how are patients like that? But then I looked and I became a bit interested. So I looked a bit deeper into her history and I spoke to my GP, can I please have her notes? Because I might write my essay on her. And my GP shared it with me. But I looked at her history. She had a history of anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, self-harm, all of these things. And it, brought the aspect of mental health and difficulties of patients within medicine. That's not just people being ill, but people also can feel mentally unwell and it can manifest due to physical illnesses. We always look at mental health as, a stigma, something that just happens, something you can just get on with. But sometimes patients have conditions like chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia, which contribute to them having low mood. They're not able to do things that many of their friends can and many people around them can sort of do. And it made me realize that, not everyone is that lucky. And when I was with the patient, I was like, I'm definitely going to write my essay on this patient. And after that, one of my other friends, so in within us, there's six students per block. I was with one of my friends. He said that he also wanted to write his essay on her. And I think I said something to him, and I said that, this patient's case is very interesting. Or I think he said it. And then I reflected on that statement that for us as medical students, we look at these patients as interesting. We look at these patients as if their case is interesting, but actually, it's not interesting to them at all. It's a day-to-day problem they live with, they struggle with, whether it's the fact that they've got chronic kidney um, failure and they're in a bed all day and they can't get up and they need dialysis machine 8 hours, 3 times a week, and they spend their whole life in hospital. They can't pursue further education. They may have Down syndrome. They may have learning disabilities. These things to us, we look at them and we move on to the next patient, but it impacts a whole patient's life. And this sort of brought onto me the importance of what we do and why we do it. And I think as a doctor, if you don't have that appreciation, you're not going to be competent in your practice and you're not going to find your career rewarding and it just might not be for you. So you need to be able to, as medical applicants for you guys, think about what you guys see day to day and know things like someone may appear very happy and, outgoing with you in practice and when you examine them, etc. But when you see them in actuality, there's a lot of psychological factors. And I just want to point out to you guys, because this is what we see day to day. The next thing I want to talk about with you guys is about work-life balance and the sort of things that you can do outside medicine. So I've just got some images of random things I enjoy in my life to do outside of medicine. I'm not just a robot and a speaker for Medentors. I do things outside of medicine as well, guys. So yeah, how I manage a work-life balance outside medicine. This is one of the most taboo things to talk about within this degree. And there's often a culture of burnout in medicine. And one of the things I really want to do is break that with you guys and point out that you can do things by enjoying things outside of medicine. So, what I like to do with me personally is have set deadlines and boundaries that I am not going to study past this time. Why? Because I know that this is the most I can do. I'm going to study 9 to 5, and unless I've got an urgent like requirement or a deadline or something, I'm gonna spend the rest of the evening relaxing, or I'm gonna spend the rest of this time with family, or I'm gonna put this towards like part-time work I want to do, or other opportunities I have. You have to set yourself these boundaries within medicine, and that's the only way it's going to be healthy. We like to talk about it in our interviews, like, oh, I like balancing my work-life balance, I like doing this, I like playing sports, but you've actually got to do it. Because when I first started medical school, I'll be honest with you guys, I wasn't able to do all the things I wanted. I wanted to do so many different things at once within medicine. I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be everything. Okay, and I soon realized that it's not always going to be possible. So I had to work out what do I actually want to achieve with my life long term and what do I actually enjoy doing. And I have to apply a bit of that weekly, and you have to have non-negotiable times. Otherwise, medicine becomes very burnout heavy. There are a lot of people in my year who dropped out. They did not make it past 5 weeks. Three people actually dropped out in the first 5 weeks of med school in my year. And that's the ones I know of. There's a lot of people who I may not have known of. And that's, it can be quite shocking to think about. Because if that is what people are, thrown into when the field we're going into, it's not always what we expect. We're not always going to expect the best outcome. Maybe some people start medicine and they just want to drop out, and that there's things you can't do about that. And that's what, it opened my eyes to the fact that medicine may not be for everyone, and it can be quite like demotivating to see other people drop out. It may make you think that, oh, maybe I can't do this, maybe this isn't for me. But the more you guys persevere with this, the better see yourself being acquainted with it. You just have to go forward with it. And the next thing is there's lots of negativity in this degree. And you might, hear from doctors like, oh, it's not too late to drop out. I remember in first year, the CTFs, so the doctors who teach us in med school, they literally said to me, it's not too late to drop out, just drop out. And I'm like, your job is to advocate for medical education. It's to teach future doctors and dentists as well about a career in healthcare. And you're literally saying things like, it's not too late to drop out. I don't know if they said it as a joke, but someone can literally take that into actuality and drop out. Whereas they may have, had the passion and wanted to actually do the degree in career and actually move forward with it. So that's another thing I want to talk about. There's going to be a lot of there's a negative culture in medicine, like a sort of like a sadistic thing they like to joke about. And you might see this on like Reddit pages, etc., of junior doctors, etc. But you have to know that if you have a good enough, strong reason of why you want to do the degree, that's not going to phase you. And you just have to find what that why is for you to move forward. Okay, so yeah, you can enjoy things like work-life balance in medicine. So, going into career options, why do people get into medicine and what makes it so good? A lot of these may be common to you guys. A lot of you guys may think that this is why I actually want to do medicine myself. One thing I really like about the degree, for example, is the first image, travel. As a doctor, there's doctors needed everywhere in the world. You are needed wherever on earth humans exist. And therefore, there will be countries which will demand doctors to come in. Whether that's America, where they've got a private healthcare system and it's very lucrative, or it's the Middle East, where they've got a quality heavy system, medical system that picks the best of the best from all around the world. Or it's somewhere like Australia, which has similar training pathways and they accept doctors around the world, or Canada, or wherever. There will be need for doctors wherever, and you are more geographically mobile than 99% of other degrees, easily, straight off the bat. It's very easy to replace doctors as well. So you will always find yourself in that situation where you will be needed in the world because we can't quite yet replace the human touch of having someone sit down with you. The other thing I want to talk about, yes, that money shows the second image is that there's a lot of lucrative options within medicine, but there's actually a lot of opportunities within entrepreneurship within medicine, which I think is really important for you guys to consider. Once you become a consultant or once you've really reached the peak of your career, you are able to monetize your skills and set up your own business or set up your own practice and revolutionize medicine. And we live in an age now, which maybe our parents or maybe older people in your communities who are doctors like family members may not have had. And that's social media to promote your medical services or your specialty. And there's so many opportunities within entrepreneurship and marketing you can use to put yourself out there. You guys may see on YouTube many different doctor personalities. A lot of people look up to them. Millions of followers, subscribers, and Instagram, TikTok, everywhere of doctors, and they, are able to leverage their brands. You're able to do things outside medicine. Even for us Medentors, as an example, we have many paid courses, etc., which are, set up as a business. And it's, of course, used to benefit many of our students and get them into medicine using the best evidence-based techniques we have. But it's
बोलता
also
नहीं
used
है
as
mühendis.
an option to tread into
मुंह
entrepreneurship,
कर
which is a key skill that I want to develop going forward as well,
अरे
because I
मारने
want to
में
develop my skills of knowing how to sell things. And I think that's something you guys can learn within medicine as well. You can use it as an experience to sell your knowledge. And that's another option you have. The next thing is it's a very hands-on career. You can do things like surgery. You can do very cutting edge technology and you can go into very cutting edge research and knowledge. You can literally cure cancer. I'm not saying that's expected, but that's something you can do as a doctor. That's some of the craziest things, which would be people's wildest dreams. You can do them as a doctor. You get to cut people open, like in even as a med student during dissections and surgery day to day, and that's your full-time job. You know the human body far better than anyone. That alone, if that piques your curiosity and interest enough, is maybe your reason for wanting to do the degree. And the final thing is the fourth image. You're working with people day in, day out. So if you enjoy making people's days better, you can work as a doctor that works in community, that works within populations, and likes helping people within certain areas, like your GPs like to do, or perhaps public health doctors that like to work within global populations. Even if you don't like working with people, a lot of people in my med school, they don't have the best communication skills, and they literally say that I don't want to work with people, honestly. You can opt for careers like pathology or radiology, where you're looking at data, graphs, and perhaps specimen slides, and you're working on them as a doctor, or perhaps a bit more into research. You're speaking with less people. Maybe you don't have to break the bad news. That's what makes medicine so different. You get to work, you can either work with people in the deepest levels, you can either work with people who aren't conscious and you're operating on them. You can even work with dead people like as a pathologist, confirming people are dead, or you can work as a microbiologist. There are so many options within medicine, and this is what, sort of brought me towards the career as well. And the next thing, which a lot of you guys are going to be asking me about, should I do medicine and is it still worth it in 2026? I've sort of summarized it into the three key pros and cons that get thrown about the degree. I want to talk them through you guys. The way you guys should think about medicine, first and foremost, is do your work experience. It is a common theme and a common trend that people end up studying medicine because of family members or because of pressure from those around them, or it's seen as a degree. Like, and that's a lot of young people, they do come to me and say, oh, my family really wants me to do medicine, but it's not really for me. And unfortunately, that's a key problem. If you doing a degree to please someone else, that's not something you want to do, and it's gonna lead to burnout, and it may lead you to dropping out of med school a lot of the time. And I've seen this happen before, okay? So you need to understand, do I actually want to do this for a long period of my life, for the next couple of decades, however long you want to go into medicine? Or is this going to be something that's unsustainable? So get yourself work experience, speak to doctors, attend these talks. I hope I've given you guys somewhat of an insight through this already into what the degree looks like. Start speaking to students, look into day-to-day videos, get work experience, put yourself in there, ask them questions, no matter how deep it is, no matter how, straightforward you are, be straightforward. Don't be ashamed to speak to people within the degree, whether it's medicine, dentistry, whatever, engineering, whatever you want to do, because you're not gonna decide what you want to do unless you get an insight. And that's what I would say you guys want go into. The next thing is a very common theme, and I put this as a con, the NHS. Strikes, prioritization, and pay. A lot of people think and they look at what's wrong with medicine and they look at it from a UK centric perspective. Because yes, we live in a system where the NHS has really helped out many people. It's free to the point of access to everyone. And we really appreciate that as UK citizens. However, working on the other end as doctors behind it has many downsides. There are strikes day in, day out, and doctors are having to strike over pay. They aren't paid anywhere near, in my opinion and most people's opinion, at the level where they should be. And pay has been decreased since 2008 in real terms due to inflation, etc. And even junior doctor prioritization. After we finish medical school, you do 2 years of foundation training. That's guaranteed employment. However, after those 2 years, as I mentioned earlier, you have to sit down and think, what specialty do I want to go into? If you don't apply for a specialty and get in, you are going to be jobless. You won't have a job. And unfortunately, there are doctors out there who are working Uber, doing deliveries, etc., to make ends meet and going into other career options because they were left unemployed. Because 52% of junior doctors, as of last year, were unemployed after F2, which is foundation year 2 of their training. And that's because there just aren't enough training posts available for different specialties. And maybe very few of them were able to secure things like teaching posts for medical schools, research, perhaps local clinical attachments. But the majority of them were picking up shifts here and there as doctors and not able to earn the level where they want to be. The other thing that is also a con about the career is it's very unlikely you're going to be at the same place at the same time. If you do secure training or a post, you're going to be moving city to city. It's very unlikely you'll stay at the same place you want to be. A lot of people have been told very late where you want to work in a short period of time, and setting out accommodation for that sort of thing can be very difficult. So that's the other thing. Another key factor that we talk about is your workload, burnout risk, the negative culture. As a doctor, you're doing night shifts day in, day out. You're dealing with people's emotional issues. Not only are you physically burnt out from working against your circadian rhythm, which evidence shows, research shows isn't healthy for you, but you're also dealing with the emotional aspect of people. So you're not just physically burnt out, you're emotionally burnt out because you're listening to people's difficulties, and that's not easy for everyone. And that's another thing you want to consider. And it's really important why we should have a work-life balance before we go into this career. And the final thing which people see as a con for medicine is the fact that there's a delayed reward slash gratification for medicine, which means that for the amount of effort you're putting in, for the amount of hours you're putting in, the years you're putting into the degree, the amount of pay you get out of it isn't quite as rewarding as you would going down into another field like finance or computer science, engineering, etc. You wouldn't be making as much in retrospect. And that's something I really want you guys to consider that if you're doing it for money, I know it does guarantee high pay, but if you put the same amount of hours that you're putting into a medical degree into any other field, I can almost guarantee you will be making more. I know a lot of times we're told doctors earn a lot, and it is true, you do at the highest end. But to get to that consultant stage, the amount of hours you put in, You put that anywhere else, you will make more. So if you're just financially driven, you should not be going for the career of medicine. If you want security, job security, yes, medicine does offer that. But for any other reason, for pure economic benefit, is not the right degree for you. And I really want to make that clear because a lot of people are stuck into this misconception. And especially not within the NHS. If you want to look abroad, perhaps that might be a better option for financial viability. But even then, it's not as, it's not all sunshines and rainbows on the other side. A lot of people start medical school and they say things like, I want to go to America, where doctors are making 500,000 a year, which they are, by the way, with only 4 years of training. 100% true, by the way, they do. However, however, how do you do that? You have to sit some of the hardest exams in the world. You're very likely going to get thrown into a rural place in the middle of nowhere. It's very likely you won't get into the specialty you want. And you have to adapt to a whole new culture and be distant from family, which can be quite burdensome upon you. On top of that, the work hours can be quite ridiculous within your training, where you're working 70 to 80-hour work weeks. So your whole life needs to be dedicated towards medicine. Are you ready to make that much of a sacrifice? Yes, Ziad, USMLE. That is the exam you have to sit. It's difficult. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows on the other side. Some people even talk about Australia. Even then, it's not ideal. The environment, the people there, it may not always be the most hospitable for you as a person to go to. You really got to do your own research before making these decisions. So don't go into medicine with the mindset that I will move out or I will do this. Come in with, because if that's your only reason for doing medicine, then it's probably not the career for you. You should go in with the mindset that I actually like helping people. I like making these interactions. I like testing my academic side of myself. And I'm happy to make these small sacrifices or these big sacrifices. That's when you should go into medicine. Okay? So these are the things I want you guys to think about. One of my main goals, if I can even get one person to be convinced to do medicine or to be convinced that it isn't right for them, I've achieved my goal with this webinar. That's why I sort of wanted to make clear to you guys into what this career sort of asks of you. And some advice I have for some of you guys who, want to go into this journey. Many people will have sat in this webinar and thought, now I really want to do medicine. This really sounds like what I want to do. Then very good news. It's great for you. And many of you guys may have, been put off it. Either way, whether you go into medicine or dentistry, the advice I have for you guys would be to take it one step at a time. The first thing you want to do, and I see many people, they come to me and they're like, Mufti, what do I do in the first week of med school? Should I start revising? When do I make my, I'm like, Anki's, all of these things. I'm like, bro, relax, chill. Don't worry about studying within the first couple of weeks of medical school because that's when, you're in university as well. You've got to enjoy that time. Spend that time. And the first 2 weeks of med school, I did nothing. No work, no, not at all. I just, went to societies. I spoke with people. I got involved in, different things, communities, that sort of thing. There's a lot of things like that you can do outside medicine. I made some of my closest friends within medical school throughout that journey. And some of the closest friends you'll ever make, I guarantee you, will be from university with societies, lifelong friends. So that's what you want to do. You want to make your friend circles, you want to join societies. If you don't do that now, you're not going to do it later. Past Freshers Week, which is like the first week of university, when you join societies, you're not going to be playing sports after that. You're not going to have the time to do anything else. So do everything you want in the first couple weeks so you can continue that on later. Because it's very unlikely for you to join a society or join a friend group because these things get established quite early on. Everyone's looking for, something in the earlier couple weeks of medical and dental school and university in general, okay? So my advice for you guys is prioritize your own well-being before the degree. And if it means things like, I've seen circumstances where I've had friends who have had health issues come up. They've had to defer whole years. I've got a friend who's redoing the year due to health issues. He's had to defer it. It happens. I've had friends, in the years above who've had to defer the year due to, you know, factors in life or, parents, etc., or anything else going on. They've had to defer the year. I've had friends who had to defer exams, these sorts of things. It happens and it may happen to you. So always prioritize your own well-being before going into the career. But yeah, and that's what we recommend for you guys at Medentors. The other thing is study based in terms of what you guys should be doing week to week. Well, it's sort of different to what I've been discussing earlier, but I never used to. My current method of studying is to make Anki's and flashcards and to watch lectures down. I never did anything like that in my um, GCSEs and A levels. What I did is I just did past paper questions. But when you get to med school, guess what? No past papers out there. There's no spec. We don't have anything. We're going in blind. I don't get past papers as a med student. The university, they do provide you with practice questions, but it's nowhere near enough to solely use that to revise. Whereas if I think back to my year 13 revision sessions, I would just be going through years and years of past papers, printing them out. You guys have seen the images up on the slides, and doing papers. You don't get to do that in med school. You sort of have to you make your own questions or go about your own way. And that's where the independent learning side of medicine comes in. You have to hold yourself accountable. You have to set yourself times and say, I'm going to revise at this time. If I don't, then the result will be I may not pass these set of exams. So it's really like that in medical school. You have to adapt your study techniques. I had to start using Anki's and making notes and stuff like that because it worked better for me in medical school. Whereas in my actual A levels and GCSEs, I had a completely different approach to my studies. And that's okay. You're going to switch around. And the good thing is the first term of medical school is quite easy, I would say, relatively, especially at Aston. I'm very grateful that the first term of medicine was very easy for everyone. Everyone passed. I think only two people failed, and those two people ended up dropping out anyways of med school. They did no work, right? So only two people in the whole year failed those exams. And that's allows you, because they're relatively easy exams, to experiment and see what university work is like and what study techniques work. And it's likely going to be like that wherever you guys choose to study medicine, dentistry at. Okay? So always experiment. Don't be hard and fast on anything. Don't be set on anything. You have to experiment different techniques and see what works for you in terms of studies. Okay, guys? Cool. So that sort of brings an end to the talk. For those of you guys who are new, here's the QR code to join our WhatsApp community, and you guys can join it over here. I've sent the link over here too. And as you guys can see, when you scan the QR code, there's an option to book a consultation for your Medentors Academy. And what we do at Medentors Academy is match you guys with a tutor who can help you with subjects. Not only do we match you with a tutor, but we also provide you guys with the exact framework as well as a role model within the degree that you choose and aspire to be doing to help you achieve those stages. Step by step, we take you step by step to get to that level. A lot of the time, you don't know what to do. And for me personally, as you guys have been through my journey and story, I didn't know what to do at a lot of stages. I didn't know how to revise properly for the UCAT. For interviews, I didn't realize until my actual first interview what to do because there wasn't guidance. And that's what we sort of help provide you guys with at Medentors, whether it's our free resources, webinars, whatever it is. Medentors Academy sort of gives you one mentor to go to and move towards, not only through academic subject tuition, but also towards your um, medical and dental journeys. Okay. So, what is upcoming next? On the 30th, we have a Medental Summit, which is an in-person talk in Manchester. So, if you guys are around and about, do join that. It's going to be interactive, it's going to be useful, and it's going to be really engaging to help you guys get an understanding of the application journey. Then we have our society fifth session, which is the one after this one, and it's life as a junior doctor, and that is with an NHS F2 Dr. Tasneem, who is in Wolverhampton, and will be talking you through what it's like to actually be a doctor. So that's very good for your personal statements and a bit about work experience for you guys as well as an online form. The next thing is what makes a top 5% applicant. The provisional date we've put for that is on the 19th. We're going to talk you guys through the whole application cycle and what to do. If you guys would like us to visit your school, etc., please do drop us a DM on Instagram or on TikTok or social media, wherever. Okay? And hopefully you guys can get in touch and move forward with you guys, whether it's your mosque, school, community center, church, temple, whatever it is. We'd love to get in touch and support your community and reach our goal of benefiting as many students. Okay, now time for probably the most important part of this, webinar, and that is the Q&A for you guys to ask me any question you guys want over here. I'm free to take on your questions. Let me scroll. I think I missed some. Silly question. Were the bodies clothed or are they just like that there? Good question. I think you're talking about the dissection. So when we go for dissections, the bodies are wrapped, and that's to preserve dignity. And when you need to operate on someone or when you need to actually, examine certain parts, then we unclothe the relevant area we're looking at. So last week I went in to just do the head and neck. We only exposed the head, not anything else, to maintain dignity. So we expose the head, then you can cut open the skull, the brain, and look at different structures. So and arteries, etc. And then there may be a spot test, like tell me what this artery is, tell me what this vein is, that sort of thing. Okay? What other things you recommend we should research about universities? Very good question. If you're very dead set on going on a university, I would always attend an open day. I would firstly shortlist a list of universities you're interested in based on your own factors, whether it's, convenience of going there in terms of location or whether you like working in a city or anything interesting you like about the course. Shortlist a list of universities and start attending open days. Start going there and speaking to students and lecturers. you'll sort of get the vibe from that. That really helped me make my decisions as well. Would you say maths is crucial? Yeah, Ziad has answered that question. How much does it cost uni? Very good question. Very important. Okay, uni has costs, unfortunately. Okay, uni does get expensive. The tuition cost in the UK is 9.5K. So across the space of 5 years, and six if you're doing either foundation or intercalating. Some degrees are six where you have to do intercalation. Around 50K just on tuition loans. Now you don't pay that off until you graduate and until you're earning above a certain threshold. So don't worry about that money. However, there's other costs as well, and that's cost of living. Sometimes you might be living within university accommodation. If you're living in university accommodation, what you'll find is there's costs such as groceries, you know, the accommodation in of itself, cleaning, that sort of thing, rents, and perhaps, going out, eating food, doing things, societies, activities, sports, everything. There's cost for everything. And that totals to roughly another um five, no, sorry, 9K maybe. So in the course of 5 years, you're spending 100K. It's a lot of money, but that's the investment you're making with a medical school. And yeah, when you reach the interviews, do they have different ways to test you? Um, or does it depend on universities? If you check our interview webinars, that goes into more detail, but generally speaking, it's generally the same. Most universities have similar tests. What field in medicine are you studying? Um, so right now I'm a second year medical student, so I'm just studying generally medicine as a whole. I'm a student doctor essentially. So 3 years later, hopefully, I'll graduate and become a doctor. And before that, I'm right now studying the degree of medicine. In terms of what field I'm currently learning about, right now we're just learning about the brain and stuff in medicine in particular. How did you get so well spoken, Allah Mubarak? Um, I just practiced, honestly. I was not actually this well spoken in my interviews. I was, stuttering after every single sentence and phrase. So a lot of speaking. I've probably done like 100 webinars by now and talks in person, online, everything. So put yourself out there, learn to speak and be unapologetic. I even do a bit of social media as well, here and there. So just put yourself out there, get used to speaking in public, and that will give you the skills to speak. And public speaking is a very important skill, guys, even for medicine, because as a doctor, you'll be expected to do a bit of research as well, because that's one of the key competencies if you want to get into specialty training. For research, you have to present it as well. So having that public speaking skill will help you out in your degree, undoubtedly. And also, as a medic, you have to learn to speak to people because you're going to be having conversations. So it's sort of a skill we develop over time. I think every doctor by the end of med school is a really good public speaker. And I wouldn't be able to say that about any other degree. It's because it's so integrated within your profession. Even in terms of medical school assessments, we're assessed on our presentations on certain topics. Like, for example, for those of you guys who've done the UCAT, you'll see the SJT section, and it's like a medical school, you've got a presentation in a group. Yes, we do lots of that. There's loads of group presentations in med school, and it is interesting. What is the last lecture you had? A very good question. I actually don't even attend lectures. I just watch recordings. I find that more convenient. Lectures in my medical school aren't compulsory. So, what I would say about that is I would actually go home and watch lectures. So that is what I would do. The last lecture I did, it was about the brain, and it's about the sensory cortex of the brain. So don't worry, guys, you don't need to know this for A levels or anything. But just to give you guys a bit of detail about what we do, think about your brain. In the middle of your brain, you've got it's called a sulcus, and it separates your brain in half. At the back of the sulcus, so behind it, there's something called the somatosensory cortex. It's basically just a huge bulge of the brain. Think about your brain as a bunch of bulges and folds. That's called a somatosensory cortex. Now, that cortex, what happens over there is a bunch of nerves go and run up to it. But unfortunately, those nerves, they don't take an easy route. They take loads of mini routes, and there's loads of little holes they have to get through and pass through. So my last lecture was me learning the exact passage a nerve takes, all the way from, like, let's say my finger to my brain. So I learned the exact passage. It goes into the spinal nerve, then into something called a dorsal root ganglion, then it does something called decussation, where it basically flips from one side to the other. So actually, my left hand, my right side of my brain feels the sense of my left hand. So it's the other way around. It's called contralateral, which means the left side of my brain feels the right side of my body, and the right side of my brain feels the left side of my body. So that's what I did in my last lecture. It was quite interesting. It's like neuroanatomy. It was interesting, but it's a lot to learn. That's sort of what medicine is. Okay. How do you get top UCAT score? Can't go into that in this webinar. Please watch our UCAT webinars. There's all on YouTube, and just go into recordings from our Google Drive as well. It goes into all the detail. I'm sure it will get you in check for that. And also keep an eye for UCAT webinars coming up. Yeah, my only offer is Queen Mary's, but I don't really feel the uni. Should I still firmly reply? Um, if you don't feel the uni, try to see if you can go there and speak to students. If you still don't get the vibe from it, then it would be then my best bet would be to reapply. However, if it's for reasons like I don't like the course structure or that sort of thing, then I would still recommend to stick with it because let's be honest, most medical schools it's pretty much the same thing. Yes, they like to say, oh, we teach this way, we teach this way. Very little difference. Most medical schools we teach the same way. Opinions on intercalated degrees. I personally am a huge fan of intercalation. That's actually the next two questions. I'm personally a huge fan. I want to integrate after third year. One of the main reasons is I want the free time because integrated degrees are quite laid back. You're not doing medicine, you're doing something else for a year. So I get free time to do things outside of medicine that I enjoy, stuff like Medentors as well. So it helps out. In terms of benefits, it can benefit you, yeah. And the NHS funds your integrated degree, so you actually don't have a cost for that. It's just the cost of living which you have to, pay for. And my medical school, actually, I just asked them. I don't know why they do this, but they pay you like 20 grand to integrate at Aston. I don't know why they do that, but I'll take that. So yeah, that's another option that we have. In terms of benefit graduation, it is beneficial. It does help you out. But not maybe not as much as you may think. For that 1 year, you could dedicate that 1 year elsewhere into research, that much time, and get more benefit out of it. So it's sort of what you like. What exams like in med school? Exams in med school, there's two different types. There's AKT and there's OSCEs. AKT is basically a multiple choice exam on a computer. It's like you're sitting on a computer, 100 questions. So we've got paper one, paper two. So on Monday we'll have paper one. So that's in May. I've got my finals. So paper one will be on like Monday, paper two on Tuesday. It's like a 2 hour exam. And essentially it's multiple choice. And there are some written answers as well. But most of it is multiple choice. Don't think multiple choice is easy, by the way, guys. Because in medicine, we do something called single best answers. And in single best answers, what we do is they give you multiple correct answers as options, and you have to pick the more correct one, which is so annoying, but that's how they teach in med school. And yeah, it's a bit annoying, but that's how medicine works. And then that's AKT exams. I find them a bit easier. Then there's OSCE exams, which others, like me myself, actually, I'll probably find OSCEs easier. That's where you have to speak to patients, examine them, take their history. Sometimes they even on the spot ask you an AKT question like, "What nerve innervates this?" And I'm like, okay, you have to think back to your AKT knowledge of that. And OSCEs is just like your MMIs, as I mentioned earlier. So there's like, let's say, 5 stations, each station lasting 8 minutes. After 8 minutes, you move to the next station and in a circle until you go back to where you began. And each station is a different task. One task, you may have a patient who's got severe mental health issues and they need goals to work towards. Others, you need to examine someone with a problem with their brain. So you do the whole cranial examination and you tell the doctor what's going on with the brain. And then some questions they just give you like a research paper and you have to like break down the research paper and tell them here's what I'm looking at. This research is good based off this and whatnot. They can ask you anything from the spec on your OSCEs, which are like your MMIs. So yeah, that's what exams are like. Is there time to work part-time? Yes, there is time to work part-time. I'm working part-time and I'm doing fine. So yeah, you can, but you just have to set boundaries. Make sure your employer know that you're a med student, and ideally offer jobs that are more flexible. Like tutoring is very flexible. Social media as well. I know a lot of people do social media brand partnerships. That's quite flexible as well. And people who do jobs online as well. Online jobs are generally more flexible. Try that if you can. If you can't, if you end up getting a job like Tesco's, M&S, whatever, then make sure you communicate with your provider and your boss and your manager how your hours are going to be like. How hard was it at the start of the course to meet people and make friends? Um, Not that hard. And the reason is, firstly, you just have to be a confident person. Secondly, everyone in medicine is a very like outgoing and like happy personality. It's not happy, but like generally outgoing people because you're speaking with people. So generally, med students are quite outgoing, so it's easy to make friends. Not everyone's like that. Some people aren't really the nicest, and there's good and bad people everywhere. But medicine, you might come across that, and that's okay. But it's not that hard to make friends in medical school, from that perspective. Does the NHS pay your tuition fees for fifth and sixth year? Yes, they do. And will this count if you intercalate in sixth year? They pay off intercalation anyways. So yes. So yes, to answer your question, yes. Do you revise notes or straight after a lecture? So what I do is I actually don't go to lectures. What I do is my lectures are online. So let's say I'm to study right after this webinar. What I'll do is I'll open up the recording from our Blackboard, which is like basically just a bank of recordings, which the med school officially put in. I open the recording, I let it play. I purchased ChatGPT Premium because it's an absolute lifesaver. I screenshot my lecture slides into ChatGPT. I tell it, explain it to me. Then I watch YouTube videos on that exact same topic to get it into my mind. And then I watch the lecture again from scratch and I just make Ankis on it using Anki. I like to use the close feature on Anki. So it's basically like a fill in the blank, the correct answer. So the T space nerve innervates the space muscle, which does space activity, da da da, for example. That's how I might learn. And I also, for anatomy, if I have to learn what goes where, I get an image, I label it, and I do something called image occlusion, where I put a blank on the image, and based on that, I sort of get my options. Um, okay. Did you have a tutor for GCSEs? If so, give details how much. Um, my tutor for GCSEs. Yes, I did tuition towards the end of GCSEs for English. My English wasn't the best. So yeah, in terms of details for the tutors, I don't have contacts to that. It was a very long time ago. But if you are interested in tuition, then do click the link in my bio and we'll match you with a tutor. And hopefully that will help you with your academic grades because we do provide tuition services at Medentors, which many people do find useful. Do you think all of the biochem in medical is useful? Mm, good question. No, if I'm honest, not all of it. But that's the thing. That's the benefit. The biochem we learn in medicine, it's not like American medical degrees where they go into so much detail with biochemistry or other countries. Great, thankfully in the UK, we've got GMC outcomes, which only teach you that which is relevant. So most of what I learn in medical school is actually relevant for us. Yes, we do go into a bit more detail, but not, I'd say 80% of what we learn is very relevant. Maybe 20% is like extra biochemical stuff. Um, but it actually is relevant. So yes, Bell is relevant. What would the biggest term of first term be? I've sort of already gone into that, but first term, make friends, um, join societies, join sports, first and foremost, before doing anything. Then establish your study strategy and don't be too alarmed if you fail your exams. It's okay because at least you're learning. I want you guys to learn in the first time of med school what studies techniques work for you, okay? That's what I recommend. Do you have regular tests? No. Take the 20 gram per towards actual degree. Maybe. Is tutoring required for the UCAT? Yes, to be fair with UCAT, you do need some sort of accountability service. And I would say tutoring is very important for UCAT. I personally didn't get UCAT tutoring. If I did, I think it would have definitely helped me out a lot. In terms of UCAT tutoring availability, at Medentors, we've got a summer intensive course. It's relatively accessible. We haven't overpriced, it's not overpriced or anything. We'll deliver details on how that will go about. It provides lectures, also a bit about personal statement and supercurriculars for you guys, as well as tutoring. So keep an eye on the group chat for that. Um, how important is it to choose a med school at home? Does it get lonely? Um, Good question. It depends on you as a person. Do you want to go somewhere to another city, or do you want to and explore things, or do you want to be in the comfort of your own city? It totally depends on you as a person. So what I'd say is how lonely it gets, I actually can't answer that question. Only you can answer that question for yourself. And that's, to see and ask yourself, are you the type of person to get lonely away from home? Do you think you'll get homesick or not? I think that's what it is. Is there anything you'd recommend to pre-learn? No, don't no pre-learning. Do not pre-learn for med school. Okay? Um, Enjoy your summer. Do your A levels, forget pre-learning. Everything you learn in med school, you learn then. Okay? I want you guys to enjoy that 6 weeks, 12 weeks you get before A levels. That's a very long break and it's gonna help you out a lot. How many hours do you revise in a day? Um, depends. Off exam season, maybe 3, 4 hours. Prime exam season, maybe 6, 7 hours. How much dissection do you do in the first 2 years? Good question. Depends on your medical school. For us, it's maybe like 4, 5 times a term, so 10 times a year, maybe that much. But it depends. Some medical schools do it weekly though, Zainab. So think about like for example, Manchester, KCL, they do weekly dissections. So if that's something that you're interested in, or perhaps you want to stay away from, look into it from that perspective. The good thing is medical schools do let you take off for that for reasons if you do feel a bit sick. Are there lots of projects to do? Um, Projects, it depends on med school. So we're actually quite lucky. We're really lucky in the sense that in terms of projects, they don't throw us with a lot of projects. They like to focus for us with more exam side of things. Whereas some medical schools they like to give loads of essays. Thankfully, my medical school is not like that. So it depends on university. What would you like to specialize in? I think this will be the last question I'll take. Um, what would you like to specialize in? Good question. I don't know yet. Because I'm only in second year. If you think about it from my perspective, I've only seen one specialty, and that's GP. Because in first and second year in Aston, we only go to GP. Third year is when I'll explore everything. And I think by the end of next year, I'll give you a better insight. But right now, I'm thinking more towards GP. I think that'll be right for me because I enjoy having a bit of work-life balance as well as, speaking with people day to day, and also the option to work part-time and build things on the side. I think that's something I want to do going forward. But yeah. Okay, guys. So that brings the end of my talk. Thank you guys so much for attending. I hope you guys found that useful. Next session will be next week when sorry, in 2 weeks' time, where we will bring on Dr. Tasneem to talk about her life as a junior doctor in the NHS and what it's like. I would highly recommend you guys get involved in that and look out for the opportunity. Hopefully, that will be a really good insight into what it's like actually as a doctor. I'm just a student. I can tell you guys what it's like week to week as a student, but if you want to know what it's like as a doctor, I would attend that. That's going to be very useful for work experience and other things as well that you guys may help find useful. If you guys have any questions, more because I'm sorry I can't really answer everything. Leave them on the WhatsApp community. I'll put on the link to join that. So join our WhatsApp community from there. And anything else you guys want to get in touch with, please feel free to follow our Instagram, social media, and check out loads of our free guides and use sources. We've got loads of like free things available for you guys. And I will see you guys hopefully on the next webinar. Okay, guys? Bye. Thank you.